Apple, I'm gonna need you to take some notes here, because while I used to ridicule the Pixel line ever since the A series of Pixel launched, I've always been pretty impressed with how Google can really wisely build a budget phone, and I think the Pixel 9a is probably the best example we have yet of Google just knocking it out of the park with affordability and value, and I wish the 16e could have been a lot more like this. Let's begin. First off, let's give some credit to the 9A for at least being a little bit more consistent with the naming. Seriously, I don't think there's a product line that has been as steady and as consistent with the naming as the Pixel. We got a Pixel 1, a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 9. They weren't afraid to use the number 9 like Microsoft was with Windows. There was still never an iPhone 9, and at one point, the budget iPhone was the 5C, and then it was the 10R spelt with an X, and now it's the 16E, and that's after several generations of SE. Apple still probably has the best marketing in the world, but they keep wanting to try different lettering and naming schemes. Not Google. They just started launching budget phones with the 3. They called it the 3A, and then we had a 4A, 5A, 6A, 7A. It's really been very simple to understand from the beginning, so hats off to Google for the consistency. But also, right out the gate, we have a much more appealing phone because it is objectively cheaper, launching at $499, putting it helpfully $100 less than what the 16e starts at. And maybe I'm a bit biased because I've gotten annoyed with how massive camera bumps have been on recent generation smartphones, but hey, look, I've got no issue with the flagships wanting to have the craziest, best of the best camera systems, okay? I understand there's some people out there, honestly, like me, that are using their phone as a camera more than anything, and for that demographic, you want a really, really fancy, capable camera system. But there's a lot of people out there who aren't using their phone as a professional piece of equipment, and they just need a basic sensor, a couple of basic lenses that work, and they shouldn't have to deal with the ginormous plateaus that keep rising out of the back of our smartphones. And it feels like Google is the only company right now even entertaining the idea of slimming down the camera bump. This is the first phone we've seen probably since, like, I don't know, the first generation iPhone SE that actually shrunk the size of the camera bump and made the rest of the phone thicker with bigger battery. That's right, they also put a larger battery in the Pixel 9a than what's in any other Pixel, including the Pro XL, including the folding phones, and yet it's on a $500 Pixel. And this has an absolutely massive battery on the inside that should unlock better battery life than you'd get on any other Pixel phone, which is kind of amazing. I feel like that helps differentiate it in the lineup a bit. It's like if you're just a kind of person who wants a phone that lasts all day because you're going to be scrolling on it, but you don't care if you have the best of the best state-of-the-art camera system, here's a much more affordable option that might appeal to you. Still has fast charging functionality, of course, but unlike the iPhone 16e, the 9a is also rocking a dual camera system, which means not only do you get an ultra-wide lens, you also get macro mode photography, which is something notably missing from the iPhone 16e, which is just relying on a single 48 megapixel camera. But yes, by the way, the 9a also has a 48 megapixel sensor. So yeah, that means you can zoom in a lot and still retain a lot of your original image quality, but they didn't compromise on the chip either. So the 9a is still rocking the same G4 chip that they put in the high-end Pixel phones. Probably not going to be as fast as the Apple A18 series of chips, but the truth is most people buying even the latest iPhones are probably not taking full advantage of what the GPUs and CPUs can do in those processors. At the end of the day, they both have 8 gigs of memory. Maybe we could argue iOS handles that system memory better, but ultimately both of these phones are still rocking a lot of the latest AI features, whether that be Magic Eraser, whether that be call screening, and in the first place, Google is rocking Gemini, which, at least from what I can tell online, is far more capable and better at answering questions than Apple Intelligence, which has just become a big joke. Genuinely have found examples of Apple Intelligence being dumber than the outgoing Siri, which is actually saying something. So if you want to capitalize on the AI trend, it seems like Google got that right too on a more affordable phone with a big fat battery, the latest chip, and a decent camera system on the back. Should I mention, if we're going to be arguing about camera features, that year after year, it's usually the A series of Pixel phones that end up winning the blind smartphone camera contests that Marquez runs. I understand that they're very opinionated and not everybody agrees with the outcome, but it it should be worth something, right? That Google has found a way to calibrate their cameras and calibrate their image signal processing to appease and appeal to the vast majority of people that are voting in these camera comparison tests. Not the Pro phones, mind you, not the $1,000 Pixels, which honestly I have a hard time recommending, because my main issue with the Pixels is not so much the design or the battery or the displays. They're great. In fact, the 9A is still rocking 120 hertz, which you don't even find on a $900 iPhone 16 Plus. You've got a little bit thicker border on the 9A, but you've got a great display there. My only issue with recommending Pixel phones is that you can save a lot of money just by waiting like a year to buy the latest flagship. Resale value tanks a lot faster on the Pixel phones than it does iPhones, so essentially there's just a lot more money to be saved in the secondhand market. Not everybody's interested in buying used, I know, but you probably should be, because I know countless people in my personal life that buy used iPhones and Android phones, and they are happy with them and they use them for many years, and yet I find people online that are just like, I never buy used, I won't like it, and it's like, okay, you're paying for that need that doesn't really unlock much for you. But the thing is, the value of the 9A is already so good in the first place, so I'm sure you'll be able to find a 9A for even cheaper a year from now, but you're probably only going to be saving like $100, maybe $150 to wait a year. Whereas when we talk about the brand new Pixel phones coming out, like the 9 Pro or later this year the 10 Pro, those, if you just wait a year, you'll probably save more like $500 to $600 because of how quickly they depreciate, and you can find those flagships for much cheaper after not that much time. But the thing is, the 9A is starting so low in the first place, it's like, it's not going to lose $500 of value in a year, because that would make it essentially free, and I don't think that's going to happen in a year, but I do think there's a good chance you'll be able to find a 9 Pro for like $600, $500 within a couple of months. So if you'd rather have the better camera and the bigger display, I still think the used market is really competitive for Pixels. But if you're just looking for best possible battery life, and you want to have Gemini, and you want to have, of course, the latest Google Silicon on the inside, yeah, this one is just kind of a knock out of the park, and mad respect to Google for actually listening to so many of the YouTube comments out there and making a thinner camera bump with a bigger battery. I'm very tempted to pick one up myself, but with all of the social media accounts I've logged into for my job at Tailosive, it's gonna be a pain in the butt anytime I switch my phone over, so I'm pretty much stuck with my 16 Pro Max for the foreseeable future. But what do you guys think of the Pixel 9A? I know there's a lot of people out there that just don't want to switch ecosystems, which I highly discourage, but if you are open to using Android, or if you already have an Android phone, then I think the Pixel 9A is absolutely worth considering for the value it offers, and I want it to be rewarded. I want people to vote with their wallet a little bit and just be like, hey, Google, thank you for slimming down on that camera bump, and thank you for boosting the battery life to be so massive on the inside. Feel free to let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. This is your Sheep here, and I will see you all in the next one.